Have you ever wondered why so many people say they want success, they want to grow their business, they want to scale, but very few people actually do it? Well, I believe that most people really don't want to grow. I've spoken to thousands of people. I deal with entrepreneurs every day on a one on one basis and in group settings. I'm an entrepreneur. I've done over $2.5 billion in business in my career. My experience shows me very clearly that most people don't want to succeed. They're in love with the idea of it. They're in love with the emotional uplift that they could do it if they ever really tried. They just need to consume more information in a very comfortable setting. And that's the state of affairs of most entrepreneurs. They live in a fantasy world. And it's not all their fault. It's what they're inundated with here on social media and on YouTube. Inaccurate information, high-level information that is not unique to that person's strengths, skill set, capitalization, resources, capabilities. And they want to believe that the current person, the current iteration of who they are in their current identity is one that can achieve the results they're looking for if they really try to. And we know that that's absolutely false. As an entrepreneur, I see that people want the outcome without the evolution. And that's an impossibility. There's a massive identity gap. See, if you were already the person that was capable of running a $10 million shop, I come from the construction background, heavy works, union, public, government, mega project world. If you were already the operator or had the identity of the person that could run a $10 million, $20 million, $100 million shop, well, you'd already be doing that. Your current identity is what renders your current results. Now, there will be changes that need to be made. You will have to grow, and as you grow, everything else will. But like all entrepreneurs and people, what we do is we look at the byproduct of things. Money is a byproduct of the services that we render, the amount of customers we have, and everything that is associated with that. Money is the byproduct. But instead of focusing on the execution, we focus on the byproduct. Well, the same thing with growing the business. The business growth is a byproduct of the growth of the operator. It's the growth of the identity of the operator and the decisions that they make and their consistency in executing tasks and creating systems and recruiting people, etc., that are effective and done consistently. The byproduct of that is a scaling of the business, a compounding growth of the business. But what they focus on is scaling and compounding, not what delivers that byproduct, which is the identity of the person, the identity of the operator. The fish rots at the head. And everything is going to come down to the leadership and the identity of the operator. And your current identity is what's reflecting your current results. Your revenue is a mirror. The scaling effect in your business is a mirror. Your leadership is a mirror. Your culture is a mirror. Your current identity produced your current results. And no amount of information consumption will necessarily change that. The market rewards execution. It rewards the efficacy of your execution done on a consistent basis. Anything done consistently is going to render a result. Most people are consistently executing things that render themselves on the negative side of the ledger rather than the positive side of the ledger. And I really believe that social media is a huge culprit. Before social media, when I was around, it was bad information you got from your mom and your dad and your uncle and your friends, all of which who were not entrepreneurs, giving you advice on something they know nothing about and something they've never done. Well, now with social media, that still exists. Okay, people giving you advice on something they've never done before, guiding you, coaching you, et cetera, et cetera. It's really become more of an entertainment type of consumption model. Let's take contracting, for example. Okay. What can a person who's not a contractor tell you about contracting that's going to benefit you in any meaningful way? They may give you some advice that makes you think about something a certain way, or that might motivate you, which will peter out and you'll have to go and consume again. Because all motivation really is kind of you asking permission to do something. And when that permission runs dry, you go back and consume something else to be motivated. You actually needed the permission of something external to get yourself in a mindset to do something for yourself. That'll benefit you, your family, your obligations, and your people. Which is crazy to me. But social media has lied to you. Okay? It has sold you speed. It sold you overnight successes. It sold you aesthetic, what I call aesthetic entrepreneurship. It's promoted to you to spend all your money, to not invest it wisely, to listen to people who have never been in the position that you're in, and consume high-level information that is not nuanced and practical for your abilities, capabilities, resources, and capitalization, and for your goals. All of you have gotten information from someone or a book, and you have followed it paint by number, and it didn't render the result that you're looking for. That's because you're not that author. If I told you exactly what I do in our business, in our systems, and you tried to apply it, it probably wouldn't work the same way. You're not me. You're not my executive leadership. You don't have the resources I have, strengths and weaknesses I have, capitalization that I have. So there may be some things that say, hey, I need to get control of this or that. And this is how Marshall does it. That doesn't mean you're going to be able to do that and execute it that way, and vice versa. You have different resources than I do. You have different strengths and weaknesses than I do. And the key is the efficacy of your execution done consistently. Now, if something I can do consistently works for me, doesn't mean you're going to be able to do it consistently. Which is why everything that is implemented in your business has to be unique to you. And that's where your identity growth as an entrepreneur is the origin of everything. It's your understanding of all of these things and why they must be done and how you can implement it in your business consistently. Then the byproduct of that is the scaling. In order to do that, you have to face what real growth looks like. And real growth is ugly. And real growth takes years. And real growth is painful. And it's about repetition, not inspiration. And consistency is not exciting, but it is undefeated. And the water will always beat the rock. Real growth is you making decisions you're not ready for. Sitting on the perch waiting for the best shot is going to lead to a day that never comes. You've got to make decisions you're not ready for and call plays and get the pressure on you and paint yourself in a corner. That's real entrepreneurship, fighting your way out. Those things will make you sharper and they will grow you and you will learn and they will be your best consultant. But that is uncomfortable. Okay? You've got to be wrong and learn fast. You're not a perfect person. You cannot expect yourself to make the right decisions all the time, but you've got to call plays. And they're likely going to be wrong. And you need to learn from them very fast. You've got to learn how to lose money and adjust. It's a part of the game. We cannot have a reward in a risk-free environment. When we talk about money, it's the most emotional thing there is on the planet. You like what I have to say, you don't want to spend any money. I ask you for money, all of a sudden you don't want to be in a group or do a one-on-one or but if it was for free, you'd do it in a minute. Money makes people funny. Money scares the hell out of people. Well, being an entrepreneur is going to be you losing money and adjusting and using money as a tool. You're going to hire wrong people, and that's very painful. Most of you guys invest too much in your people emotionally rather than investing in them from the tool side and the practical side of things. You invest in them emotionally, and you are expecting more out of them than that person has a capability of giving you. Your expectations and their ability to deliver are not in parity. That ends up giving you an emotional strain and being negative. on the negative side of the ledger, getting you to turn negative. That's a painful thing. You're going to have to rebuild systems. The first iteration is not going to work. You're going to have to iterate on it 100 times, which means it's going to take time, which is not what you want to hear, and it's not what you've been sold, which is why very few people actually end up making it. You have to repeat boring fundamentals over and over and over again. It's not sexy. Business is about replication, duplication, repeatability of things that work at scale, which means doing that all the time. I'm sure it's very boring for people to make burgers at McDonald's as they sell hundreds of millions of them. That's their service, and that has to be duplicated, and that could be boring. But the reason why they could sell hundreds of millions of burgers is because they have systems in place that happen through iteration. And you've got to be able to show up when the motivation is gone, not ask anyone for permission to get into the mindset to play the game at the highest level. And do you even want the result? See, what you're thinking about is a growth of money. The higher you come in a leadership position, the more responsibility you're going to have. The greater the business grows, the more responsibility there is. You become more of a servant. Almost like a teaching of Jesus. Those that are first will be last, and those last first. And that's very true in business. Do you even want that result? I know you want the money, but do you want all the other stuff that you're going to have to do? Is it a part of your personality? Do you want to win a championship? Do you want to find your potential and live in that world? Most people don't. Most people want comfort. Comfort is numbing. Comfort is consumption. It's not execution. Execution is violent because execution requires the death of something, the death of an old identity, the death of the ego. That's an uncomfortable thing. Most people want the fantasy, not the result. So my advice for everyone is to stop romanticizing entrepreneurship and to stop thinking that you can skip the iterations. It's a constant iterative process. You're constantly course correcting in this game. You have to make the decision to evolve and close the gap between the identity that you currently have and the identity that is required to get the results that you're actually looking for. You need to make the decision to actually become the operator. And if you want new results, you're going to need a new identity. If you want new outcomes, you've got to become a new operator. Not a new thinker, not consuming more information. When it comes to identity and operations and being an operator, that's about executing. And that is what the market rewards, execution. But we are living in a state of information consumption, fantasy building, okay, chemical reaction, emotional uplifting, rather than living in reality. But reality is where you're looking to get your rewards, but you don't live there. So how are we ever going to stem that tide? We've got to live in reality and look at the business in reality and realistically. We also need to take a longer term outlook, kind of like investing. You're going to see one or two guys that do very well in short term trading, okay? And you're going to try it and you're going to fail and lose all your money. But if you had a longer term outlook, well, then things become a little bit more likely to happen for you. But you've been sold speed, aesthetic, overnight success, 3-month solutions, and it's just not true. Can it happen? Definitely. Depends on you. Depends on your level of gameplay right now, your identity, and how quick and how fast and how hard you're willing to commit and work on that. But then it's not a switch that we do this for 3 months and then we get where we want to be and we turn it off. It's also a lie. Unless you run an insurance company, some sales-based organization, you're not pulling out of the company. If that company has no use for you, then you're useless. And the idea that people are just going to work for you to make you profit is insane. You have to be at the helm. Okay? The CEO of Toyota is at work today. Okay. Tony Robbins is a billionaire. He's still jumping on trampolines singing for his dinner. Okay. You're not being told reality. Okay. In my world, I promise you, the biggest contractors on the face of the earth, the owners, the CEOs, they're at work today. They're working on that business. They're expanding it forward. They're working on the vision. They're building their culture. They're uplifting their people. They're finding more people and recruiting. They're constantly working on it, which is why the long-term outlook is more aligned with reality. Unless you plan on dying, unless there's going to be an exit, which is also things that is sold to you constantly, which is not true. It doesn't happen. Exits aren't all over the place. It's not like a menu, a fast food menu. I'm going to choose the exit for a 10x multiple. I'll take that order. I mean, what the hell is going on here? I'm seeing it everywhere. You're a contracting company. Well, we're going to do this, and you're going to exit in 5 years for $100 million. Are you smoking drugs? You're on meth. Okay, the likelihood of that happening is very small. That company needs to be half a value, and it needs to be operating at a certain level that somebody who's interested in rolling you up, because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be an acquisition of you and 5 other guys to roll you up in contracting. Your people got to be strong. You have to have a backlog of work, because if you don't have a backlog, what's your value? What are we buying? We're buying a brand. We're buying a people. There's some value to that, but okay, then where's the payout? Okay, don't even get me started on the valuation of cap raises, and then you just continue to get diluted until they finally do exit, and all the VC guys get their money out of it, and the investors get their money out of it, and you, the guy who started it, gets nothing because you've been diluted to zero. You don't even know what that means, so that's also a problem. So success really shouldn't be the goal here. Success is the byproduct of who you become. Okay? Jordan didn't win championships because necessarily he was Michael Jordan. He won championships because they're the byproduct of his leadership and how the man played, his dedication to growing, his identity. And it's the same thing with business. So I hope this sheds a little light and clarity and gives you a little dose of reality of what entrepreneurship is really about, and what scaling truly is and how that's done. Here's to you and your identity growth. See you soon.